I want to literally be the oxygen that these kids breathe at this point in time. And it sounds crazy, but I'm going to use the negative I created, because I have, unfortunately, created too much negative. And then I'm going to turn it into a positive by uplifting them mentally and curing them from the depression and helping them figure out what it is they want in life.
Garbage who kills for money.
Don't talk like one of them. You're not. Even if you'd like to be. To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. When they don't, they'll cast you out. Like a leper. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
Just as I was about to present myself to the world, you showed up. Pursuit of some stupid case, dazzled the crowd. You're dazzling. And then you save the crowd. A crowd that I was meant to save. A crowd that was meant to thank me. You saw my greatest moment. I admired you.
I chose my path. You chose the way of the hero. And they found you amusing for a while, the people of this city. But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother?
So let me get this straight. Heroes are always the guys that save people from the bad guys. And villains are the guys that hurt the people the hero tries to save. So heroes are good guys, and villains are bad guys. But is it really that simple? Where do villains even come from in the first place? Why do they do the crazy things that they do?
Stein, you chose him over me? That's who I'm supposed to be!
We often shed most of the light the person who saved the day and talk about how brave and courageous they are. And we highlight criminals, the so-called villains, to be evil. Not that oftentimes the things they do aren't evil, but we remain in ignorance to make things simple for us to understand. The majority of focus is always on the hero, but without the villain, there is no hero. So I'm going to break down everything I can about this philosophy about the good guy and bad guy. Jeffrey Dahmer. I would think a lot of people would consider him to be a villain. Now, disclaimer. This is not to try to justify his actions. They are undeniably inexcusable, however. For the sake of the video, let's do a short analysis. Born in 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, lives with both parents. Had an early surgery which reportedly made his demeanor shift. He became more subdued and emotionally withdrawn, but nothing worthy of speculation, at least at the time. Family moved to Bath, Ohio, where he became increasingly shy and isolated. Other kids found him weird. He did strange pranks like faking seizures or odd behaviors to get reactions, which was more awkward loner energy than comedic genius. So far to me, he just seems just like another socially awkward kid. So, where did it all go wrong? Well, here is where it starts to get odd. By his early teens, Dahmer developed an unusual fascination with dead animals, collecting insects and skulls, even preserving them in jars. Now that's not a hobby most kids have, but that's not all. By 14, he was already drinking beer and hard liquor during school hours, and he didn't even bother to hide it very well. When asked, he said alcohol was my medicine. He also started wrestling with his sexuality privately. All this at 14 already. I remember, when I was 14, I was worried about being able not to finish the assignment I waited to do last minute. But it gets worse. His parents had a divorce in 1978, and Dahmer had to fend for himself for a bit, which didn't help his already unstable situation. So you tell me, when you are about 18 and you have to deal with emotional neglect, isolation, odd interests, substance abuse, family breakdown, and unaddressed psychological issues, sexual fantasies all by himself, how would that not send an average person over the edge? When he needed the attention the most, he only got what he really needed when he got sent over the edge, when it is too late. And that is who we are as society. We create our own problems. We create these so-called villains. Aristotle, an ancient Greek philosopher and polymath, spoke of telos, the purpose toward which a thing moves. For the hero, purpose is not discovered. It is assigned early and then mistaken for essence. He confuses function with being. This is why the hero rarely asks, "Who am I?" He asks, "What must be done?" But how exactly does an ordinary average man become a hero everyone praises? See, there is usually a moment where chaos peaks. A breakdown in the family, a public humiliation, a failure of authority, a moral vacuum. And when this happens, you'll often find that nobody is there to help you. So what do? Well, a critical decision has to be made. Are you going to sit there and cry forever? Or are you going to step up and do something about it? And so, a hero is born. You want to know what your reward for being a hero is? Oh wait, you probably already know, right? Your name praised every time you're seen. Monuments built in your honor. Stories passed down from generation to generation. Now let me tell you the actual truth. Think of all the famous heroes you know, even in the comic books. You think people actually care about them? All of it is a facade. They praise your name, they give to you. the stage they give to you. But the real you, they don't even know who you are. Everybody loves Spider-Man. Well, what about Peter Parker?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm late.
And so,
What a geek.
don't even think about it.
You're so lame, Parker.
The person who chooses to become a hero expects and aims to receive a reward and validation, and acts accordingly. But what about a so-called villain? See, heroes and villains have similar tendencies and story, but the difference is in the choice. So what becomes of someone who chooses the way of the villain? Control is the lifeblood of the villain. But control is not the desire. It is the symptom. The original intent is something far more human. The need to make the world make sense. Long before the first immoral act, there was confusion. A child learning that effort does not guarantee reward, that honesty is optional, that cruelty often goes unpunished. The villain does not reject morality at first. He waits for it to work. When it fails him repeatedly, something snaps. He begins to act, not to harm, but to test, to see what breaks, to discover whether the world has limits, or if it only pretends to. Punishment does not deter him. It confirms him. Attention does not shame him. It validates him. Even resistance becomes proof that his actions matter more than silence ever did. The tragedy is that neither method truly works for long. The crowd forgets kindness and rebels against cruelty. They demand light, but reject the fire that makes it. In the end, the people remain the constant variable, the quiet architects of every story's repetition. Heroes save them, villains test them, and yet they never change. Maybe that's the real curse of the moral cycle. Humanity learns only through extremes and forgets the lesson once the pain or the rescue fades. So the hero returns to his patrol, exhausted. The villain rebuilds in exile, disgusted. And the people, those sacred, oblivious masses, return to sleep under the illusion that the world's balance is someone else's burden to carry. That's the real tragedy. Not the fallen hero or the condemned villain, but the audience that keeps applauding while the same play repeats. Two kinds of people in this world. People who set out for good in this world, and the ones who set out for evil. But what about the people who knows they will be seen as evil and proceeds anyway. Now, if you've been listening carefully, you might think I have implied that villains are the real good guys and misunderstood. If so, not true. When the villain is performing his actions, he is not thinking of healing the world. You'll find he does it for his satisfaction, to prove that he is right and satiate the ego. He sacrifices someone else to prove his point, and the hero sells himself until he has nothing left but an empty puppet. The hero who plays the villain sacrifices himself to care for another. He shoves down his pride and is willing to be hated in order to not be bound by anything and anyone to achieve real results. And so we'll get into the philosophy and psychology of the hero who plays the villain. The world claims to value goodness, yet rewards power. It condemns cruelty, yet depends on it. It celebrates heroes, but only after the damage is already done. He can't wrap his head around it. Why can't they understand? But then something finally clicks. He understands now that if outcomes matter more than intentions, then the person willing to be misunderstood gains leverage over reality. The crowd cannot act decisively because it must remain morally clean. Someone else must act where moral language fails. But to do this, it requires a rare trait: the ability to tolerate being seen as the worst version of oneself without collapsing into self-hatred. It sounds easy to have until you realize that it is even easier to just be nice to everyone so they like you. Here lies the paradox. The hero who plays the villain must suppress the very empathy that motivated him to act in the first place. Not to erase it, to suppress it. And this simultaneously creates internal strain. Unlike the villain, he does not externalize blame. Unlike the naive hero, he does not expect gratitude. He accepts that moral action in an imperfect system will always appear immoral to those protected by it. This is why history struggles to categorize him. The final tragedy is not that he becomes the villain. It is that once the role is fulfilled, there is no place for him to return to. Not the masses, not the underworld, not the goody two-shoes hero. Hence the sacrifice of oneself. What are you to gain from all this? What can this philosophy offer you? Most people are trained to see black versus white, good versus bad, hero versus villain. These categories are comforting, but lazy. We simplify reality so the mind does not have to carry complexity. How often actions are judged less by their necessity and more by their appearance. This philosophy offers the simple realization of the complexities of life, a broader perspective rather than one that is easy on the ears.